Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Thank you for joining us for Zoom webinar number 4, where the topic is networking. And it's great to see all of you online here. Thank you for posting in the chat already. And if you have any questions, I'm going to do a brief question and answer, but the purpose why we're here today is Adriana has so kindly pre-recorded a video before she flew out to Australia. She's currently teaching the NLP practitioner training in Sydney. And a shout out to all the coaching assistants who are part of the master trainer program there. Thank you for your assistance. Have a lot of fun, have great results, have amazing breakthroughs, and watch all those wonderful lives change before your eyes of all the students there. And thank you. I'm sure you won't be able to join us today because you'll be starting segments soon, but if you see the video, thank you. It's good to see you. Also, I'm going to share with you the video that Adriana created for us. It's about an hour, and she's also made a full transcript. So if you're driving, you can safely make sure that you can just listen and pay attention. You don't have to take notes because there will be a transcript provided. Also, I will do a brief question and answer afterwards if you just needed to talk some things out. However, a lot of the questions will be answered when you do the projects in each of the project topics in the forum, which Adriana does highlight. Hi, Bogdan. Nice to see you. Hi, Cameron. Good to see you as well. So that will all be done within the next hour to hour and a half. And then I will go ahead and start the video now. So give me a moment as I'm still getting rapport with how to share my screen. And this video right now, for those of you who are just popping on now, I'm sharing a video that Adriana has pre-recorded before she flew to Australia to inform everybody on strategies for networking. Hi, Wayne, good to see you. Hi, hello, okay.
Good afternoon, good evening, or good night, or wherever you are in the world, I don't know, depending in which area of the world you are in. This is a webinar dedicated to networking and how to make it a success. It is a pre-recorded session, as I will be in the middle of the trainings, and most likely I will have no time to do a live webinar. However, I hope that this will serve you well, especially that networking is an important tool in the success of your business growth and business development. That being said, let's start. There are some general rules for networking which you need to keep in mind every time you endeavor to network. So in order to be effective, a business network should have a connection between the individuals in the network. That's a network, yeah, based on trust and honest bilateral cooperation. When each person in the network has a positive experience of every other person based on it's a business network, marketing. So based on the achievement of business goals and business results. So in this instance, then they tend to sell each other to their friends and acquaintances. So remember that one of the first rules in networking is about providing solutions and tangible results. Now, this is not difficult because everything you do is geared toward providing results and solutions to problems, as you are, and everything you do is not content-based, but structure-based. Yeah? Remember the golden rule, what we do with NLP, regardless of the content, we can offer advice, coaching, and consulting because we operate on structure and context rather than content. Now, I hope that you guys remember that. So building trust and relationships is vitally important, and seeing how you can help others before you ask for help yourself. So make sure that before you do networking, you have done the other projects, especially the ones related to your business goals. So have your business goals the whole year, the business organization of the year, well thought out and well defined. I don't think I have to remind you how important it is to do the keys to an achievable outcome for each one of your goals, followed by the creating your future process. So once you have your goals clearly defined, you can pick out people who will help you achieve those goals rather than being in the whole wrong group. I mean, different groups of networking may be good for you or not. And the clarity of which group do you want to belong to, or which one gives you the most results, depends on, obviously, on your goals, first and foremost. Some networking groups are based more on learning new things. Others are focused on making new contacts. Others are making business connections, yeah? So choose your networking group or groups wisely. Try several until you settle where you feel most support and where your contribution and what you have to offer is valued. Notice where people are genuine or may be driven solely by self-interest. Because sometimes with networking, everybody wants to sell their own stuff and nobody listens, everybody wants to sell. Well, that's not a good networking group in which you can take advantage of a open two-way communication and relationship building. So the question you ask yourself, are people supportive of one another, genuinely supportive? Is the leadership of that networking group competent for your business purpose or for your business goals, or just are they politically motivated, for instance, or economically motivated? Yeah. Participate in as many networking events as you can before you make up your mind, and then you choose wisely, and before you're accepted as a permanent participating member, because that's another issue. Now, the next thing to keep in mind is to, when you do this, always ask open-ended questions in the conversations you open up with people. Refer to, if you remember, we discussed the open-ended questions versus closed-ended questions in your NLP marketing manual in the section on sales. We have a discussion about open-ended versus closed-ended sections, so refer to that. In general, open-ended questions are questions that that ask who, what, where, when, and how, rather than conversational postulates to which the answer obviously would be a yes or a no. An important point to remember is always make yourself useful through the resources you can offer. You got a lot to offer. That's the truth. So make yourself useful. If you are known, and if you begin to be known as a resource for others, people will seek you for suggestions, for ideas, for exchanging names of other different people, and this keeps you in their awareness. Have a clear understanding of your differentiation point. Now, we talked about differentiation point starting with the trainer's training, but I will refer you again to page, I believe page 12 in Marketing NLP Manual. In order to get referrals, you must first have a clear understanding of what you do, to be able to articulate this and explain it clearly and succinctly to others. That's why we have the project in which we asked you to think and practice your elevator pitch. Elevator pitch, 20 words, short, concise, describing who you are and what you do in a way which makes it interesting to other people, so much so that they want to ask you questions about you. You remember that, I hope. If you did that project, you already have some experience under your belt. So this is your elevator pitch, and the understanding of your unique selling proposition. We're going to have another project on the unique selling proposition, which I will post online under the forums, or maybe by the time you watch this video, I have already posted it. So that's very important. And tweak a word here and there in your elevator pitch in such a way that until it gets, in other words, until it gets you the results that you're after. So you say it in a different way, and then say the same thing and tweak a word here and there. Remember that not all elevator, the same elevator pitch may not all work with all people. So depending on who is in front of you, may need to tweak it. Well, you will become very comfortable with that if you practice. Yeah. In one of the projects, I don't remember which name, but it's the project related to your elevator pitch. It says practice with as many people as possible until you become as good as, you know, a professional salesperson, because that's what you are shooting to become, in tweaking words and using your linguistic resources in such a way that you adapt to the needs of the person in front of you, rather than forcing them to accept a prefabricated elevator pitch. As I said, that may not work for everybody because everybody has different values and different values levels. Yeah, so be aware, notice, calibrate, and change here and there until you get the results that you want. Now, next point is to communicate clearly in any networking situation in respect to what are your business goals, what are you looking for, how and how networking with others may help you while you help them. So it's this relationship building which is very important. Avoid using the old cliche, how may I help you? It's a little passe. It's a little overused. Yeah. Many people will have no answer for you on the spot if you use that question. That may come later on once you have established what kind of needs they have. And then you say, well, by this and this and this, I can help you with that. That's a different story, notice, yeah? Good. So next point, once you get referrals, follow thoroughly with all the referrals, quickly and efficiently. When people give you referrals, your actions are a reflection on them. Respect and honor that, and your referrals will grow. Be professional. Don't put them somewhere and go, oh, I'll do it later. Later, nobody will remember you. Maintain personal relationships with people as often as possible, especially with your most important contacts. Now we'll talk a little bit more about your most important contacts. Who are they actually? So season greetings, birthday wishes, if you happen to know their birthdays, go a very long way to keep you in their awareness. Everybody is flattered if you remember that, including you, including me. If somebody remembers my birthday, I go, wow, you know, I mean something to this person. Maybe it makes you feel good, right? So if possible, you can get together, have a coffee, and share some ideas later on. So this is how you maintain a personal relationship with the most important contacts. We'll talk about who are your most important contacts. Yeah. So many people who go to networking events think that the quantity of the business cards or the telephone numbers collected matters the most. I'm not saying it doesn't matter. It does matter. But people think that this is all there is. And this is based on social media, false ideas that lots of likes equals lots of friends. That's incorrect. Yeah. Here are some other important points about networking that you need to remember. And don't try to write this down while you're watching, because I'm going to make available to you the transcript and the file so you can download it and print it out for your needs. So let's talk about number one now. Who are your most important contacts? Who are the people whose presence in your life is valuable to your career? The 10, 15 most important professional contacts in your life. These are the people you need to nurture the most. Make a list of those people and keep a regular contact with them. What are their values, beliefs, interests, concerns? How you can network with them, how you can offer something to them and they offer you something in return. That's called building relationships. Immensely valuable, especially in the transitional period as we are going through right now. If you're at the beginning of your network experience, start off networking with your existing connections, getting in touch with old friends, maybe with distant relatives that could somehow create a beneficial relationship for you. If that's the case, it may not be the case. I'm just giving you ideas, yeah? Old school friends, you never know, you know? It could be a good beginning, a good stepping stone, because you are reaching out. You must reach out. People are not going to reach for you unless you reach out to them. But at the beginning, if you're unfamiliar with it, I'm giving you this as an idea because you are not reaching out to strangers, which is a little bit more difficult if you are not used to the process of networking. Yeah. The number two in next level of importance are people who may be maybe in your 20 to 50 contacts. And these are the people who have assisted you in the past and could do so in the future. However, they are not as close to you as the first group. They may be your past coaching clients or coming up from other areas of activity, but you had some sort of a relationship with them that may be on your list of friend book friends. However, you're not close to them, but you know them good enough, well enough. They're not strangers, in other words. And then number three, in order of importance, are what we call the rest. Yeah, your extended circle of acquaintances and followers. This includes your online networks, professional social media services such as LinkedIn. It's a good thing there. So this is the rest. Good. Now let's talk about point number 4. Next thing. The best way to begin a close connection is to assist someone first. Now think of it. All your coaching clients, you already have assisted them. Or maybe you did consulting, or maybe you assisted them even without NLP in a way or another. You have helped them in something that they needed from you, and they noticed and they know your willingness and ability to assist or help. So it's very important to find out your contacts' values, beliefs, and concerns. If you do, you can then easily link their needs, concerns, values to what you have to offer in terms of your training. Yeah? If you want to make a connection with a new contact, let me scroll down here because I'm looking at my file. Don't be afraid to be different. And this is a big thing because the tendency is I want to be like everybody else. You don't. I said in the trainings, if you remember, that you cannot be exceptional and average at the same time. The big mass of society and population in general it makes an average. Yeah, it's a statistical average. You don't want to be average and mediocre. You want to be exceptional. Don't be afraid of being different. Through what you have to offer, you already are different. But don't be afraid. Don't be put off by the fact that you are different. And be proud of it. All people are busy. And by the way, at a networking event, everybody's there to make business contacts. They're there for themselves. If you want to provoke curiosity and interest, say something different. Be different. Don't be afraid of doing that. And keep point number 6, which is the next one in mind. Cultivate people, not jobs. What does that mean? Let's see, what does it mean? It's not easy to break into networks that are already formed because already there are relationships, people know each other, people already use each other's contacts. They know each other well. So think about the person or the persons in your list of acquaintances who has already a lot of connections, and cultivate that relationship. They can introduce you to their circle, the networking circle, which is already formed. If there's no one you know like this, begin building and cultivating relationships with new people you meet at networking events yourself. It's not very difficult to make a close connection with people if you begin to cultivate those relationships. Yeah? Be genuine, be authentic. Hey, well, I would like to invite you for a coffee. Are you available? Are you in town? Maybe you notice that they live close to you, or maybe they work close to you, or anything like this. Just meet them from time to time, or have a telephone conversation. It's much nicer if you meet face to face, yeah? And so you can begin to exchange ideas and build a relationship. Now here's the hard one. Because you have to walk the middle ground. You have to be willing to give something before you ask for something in return. And now how much you give, because you can easily go overboard on both sides. Some people give until it hurts. And then they end up kind of depleted because they think, oh, I keep giving, and nobody gives me a return, but maybe they don't ask for anything. Some people only get, but they don't give anything. So it's a very fine balancing act in walking the middle ground, because you give, but not to the extent of which you are taken advantage of. But you don't become a greedy person that only wants to get and be served without serving others. People like to see your willingness to give. So when you want help or assistance for your project, make sure you invest enough time in the person you ask for help. Make sure you do this before you ask for help. If you show up years later and ask for assistance from someone you met in the past and barely know in the present, your chance of getting help is almost nil. I mean, the person looks at you and I don't even remember who you are. I don't know. I'm sorry, I'm busy. I'm sorry, I can't do this. And they'll find an excuse and just not jump to help you, yeah? So if you give before you get, but remember, not to the point to where you're being taken advantage of, then people will remember you. People will remember you, and give genuinely. When you offer help, offer it genuinely. Offer it from your heart. Yeah. Don't do it because you have a secondary agenda. Just do it because you want to help that person. In that moment, be absolutely genuinely wanting to help, and that will come across as truthful and honest. So, really successful people are willing to give. Yeah, they're sincerely interested in helping others, and do this not out of calculated action. This is another way of saying or repeating what I just said. Yeah, but out of genuine desire to assist. In fact, one of our very successful friends always used to say, "Just let me know, how can I help you?" And this help always came without strings attached. And then you have an open door. Then you can say, when you have a need, "Hey, can I ask for your help?" And then you'll receive help in return. Good. So these are some principles we went through. Now the next thing is what to do. Well, here is the thing. Do it and do it and do it and do it. Right? So if you haven't done networking before, it can seem like a daunting task, especially if you are an introvert by nature. Introverts, sending them out to network with people, oh no. But it doesn't matter. No matter what you are by nature, you can learn the skills to be the other way. Yeah? It doesn't have to be a daunting task. It doesn't have to be difficult. Like sales, there is no way around it, by the way. Learn to love to talk to people. Be sincerely curious. Be sincerely and genuinely interested. Forget about you. Forget about, oh, what would I say? You're too busy with yourself. When you go to a networking event, look with curiosity around and look at people with your understanding of physiology, building rapport, sensory acuity, values understanding, and just talk to people from that point of view. Be curious. And then you'll forget about all your worries about, oh, well, how would I look like? What would I say? And all of that. That's you're too busy with your own doubts and limiting decisions. Forget about that. Just put your attention outwardly, be in an, exactly like we learned in trainers training, outwardly focused, totally awake, but an outwardly focused trance, the trainer state, and be genuinely interested. Yeah? Because there is no way around networking. Yeah? You do it. You get over the discomfort by taking action and doing it. There is no way around. You cannot prepare and prepare and prepare and prepare for network. The only preparation is you do it. Yeah? Now, not as I already mentioned, keep in mind that not all networking groups will be for you. Therefore, you need to try several until you find one or two or more which suit your type of thinking and your goals for the business. Good. So you, like everywhere, practice makes better. So you won't become an expert overnight, or you may, by the way. With your skills in trainers training, you don't have all the barriers that somebody who's not trained would have, because you can build instant rapport with people. You know how to do that. So you got big advantages compared to someone who's not trained. But if you don't participate in networking, it will not happen magically to you. Therefore, do it. The typical advice that's given to entry-level employees is what? If you work in any corporation, you heard this many times, invite people to a coffee, right? Connect with them on LinkedIn. By the way, connect with them on LinkedIn is not enough for people who are already having great careers. It is the very beginning stage that you should strive to move beyond as quickly as you can, as fast as you can. If you're already having a great career, you need to leverage an entirely different strategy. That's why I started this by saying if you're just beginning, if you've never done this before. Being constantly bombarded with Facebook and LinkedIn connection requests and endless attempts to pick your brain for free, it's not working. Don't spend your time on that. It's just not working. Trying to set yourself aside in the midst of all that noise. Everybody wants connections. Everybody wants, to ask you questions and pick your brain for free. It's too much noise. It's a losing battle if you're trying to set yourself aside. It's too much noise because it's too much time and energy consuming. And you probably should not spend your time answering all these requests and writing a bunch of cold emails every day to these people in your likes and dislikes on Facebook and so on and so forth. Remember, the only two commodities you have in life are what? Time and energy. We said this so many times, but it bears repeating. It's never enough. Okay, here are some other tips which, together with what you already know, will help you in doing presentations at networking events. Remember, you need to make yourself and your product and service desirable enough to have people search you out. So let's go back to basics. Your differentiation point. Share something that seems new, novel, even exotic. Just to say to them, well, doesn't matter how many negative emotions and trauma you had in your past, there is something you can do about it. Now that's almost shocking, not to speak of novel and exotic, right? But how many variants of this, for every technique you learned in NLP, for any technique in practitioner and master practitioner, you can create a statement that's novel and exotic. And because people don't know about this stuff. So it's not easy to identify in a blink of an eye from a prospective networking relationship or partner or person what's most interesting about you. So even the coolest thing, it may seem dull, boring, and ordinary initially. Therefore, here is how to practice. Start with your friends and acquaintances and ask them to tell you what are the qualities they find special about you. You may think that it's dull boring and ordinary. You may think about yourself as being just, oh, this is not really a quality. And you'll be surprised when somebody says to you, hey, this is what I find more special about you. And so I encourage them to tell you the truth. Even an apparently bad trait, apparently I'm saying bad trait, can become a good one if utilized wisely. For instance, somebody says to you, oh, you're so stubborn. But stubbornness can be transformed into determination to achieve goals and into power to follow through. You see? That's not stubbornness. It can be transformed into a very, very positive trait. Once walking into a hotel, I started a conversation with the bell person. And the stories they knew and their experiences were so fascinating to me. Ted was saying to me, okay, let's check in. And I kept talking to this guy, but he was a talker, he just shared with me all sorts of experiencing, and that made them special enough to make me want to talk to him more. You see? So here is a tip. Look again into the NLP marketing manual on page 12 to 14. You'll get many insights there on how to think about this. Yeah, it's your differentiation point. You have to know it. If you know it, don't know it by now, make sure you do your homework and find it. Number 2, make sure you understand well what you're selling. Yeah, that's why we did all the projects before we reached this point with not networking. In other words, know your NLP, timeline therapy, NLP coaching, and hypnosis processes very well. Because almost nothing elicits more interest than genuine expertise. And there was a good conversation going on in one of the forums between the master trainer candidates and the forum participants in thinking of how to achieve that expertise about being a daunting task. It took a while and a time investment to transcribe the NLP practitioner recordings, but once done, the people that were exchanging ideas about this, the ones who have done it have said that nothing replaces that. It's drilled in your head, and you can talk freely and see the applications of all this in different areas and for different concerns. So be an expert in your knowledge. Yeah. If someone's drawn to a topic that you're knowledgeable about, you'll move to the top of their list in the importance of networking list. And that's what you want. You want to be at the top of their list. Good. In terms of what to do, number 3 now, build rapport, and build more rapport. Yeah. Sometimes the most banal occurrence strikes closer to home than business expertise itself. Common love for a certain food, a preference for a certain vacation spot, same preference in pets. Things like this can work a long way toward building a networking relationship. So rapport. Lots of it. Next point, number 4. If you're not invited to networking events and you don't want to go to one, well, host one yourself. That's another possibility. It's a little more complicated, but you can host one yourself. You can do it monthly or even twice a month, depending on your time. Twice a month's a little much. It will rob you too much of your time in terms of thinking of and doing your business, your intros, and everything else you need to do. But remember that when you are the host, pulling together a great event allows you to invite successful people who you might not normally consider your equal level associates, you see, but who embrace the chance to network with other high quality professionals using your event. This is not easy to do. By the way, this is pretty difficult. So do not attempt unless you already have a name in your field. If you have a name in your field, that's good. But if you are beginning to develop your career, don't go down that path. It will take an enormous amount of energy and time investment. Yeah. An easier version is to start with some sort of a meetup group or something like that on your own, with special invitation people, providing that you don't spend too much of your 2 valuable commodities, time and energy, to make it work. Speaker, which is great. Yeah, you start with a big advantage compared to anyone else not trained in NLP trainers training, not trained, in other words, in presentation skills, in the format, in group rapport, in extending your energy over the group, in trainer state, and all those things that you already have under your belt. So prepare your presentation based on what you know from trainers training. You're usually, 1 hour? Usually you get 1 hour, maybe you get 2 hours tops, yeah? Should be mostly why. And it must contain a little piece of magic, yeah, which is a fantastic demonstration that leaves the audience absolutely in awe, like jaw-dropping, yeah? And curious to know more. It has to incite curiosity, and like, I need to know this. How did this? I can't believe what I just saw. That's what you want, you see. So have a PowerPoint presentation prepared, of course. A few slides, don't make it complicated, keep it simple, but have a PowerPoint presentation ready, and have your brochure ready. This is project number 10, and available right then and there. A nice, glossy, high-quality brochure which lists all your events, your future trainings, and your pricing. Learn as much as you can about who is your audience. This is the next thing before you do your presentation. Very important. The more you know about your audience, the better off you are. Not every presentation, which is actually a pitch for your trainings and services, right? Of course, will work for everyone. It won't, by the way. Depending on the type of audience sitting in front of you, you will have to change the approach. I think I told you the story when Dad and I were in Egypt and we were doing a trainers training. And our promoter in Egypt said to us, hey, would you like to come and speak? I have an introductory evening for NLP. My purpose for doing that is to enroll people in my own practitioners, in the trainings. Now, what are we going to do? We don't want to help you? Sure, we were there anyway. So I said, okay, sure, we're coming in to support you, and we'll do the talk and support your enrollments in your practitioner training. Sure, absolutely. And we asked immediately, what kind of audience do you have? And he said, oh, these are all business people. These are all people working in corporations, or they are private business owners. So they're all business people. Now we got to the venue, and it was a very, very big venue, really big. And I don't know how this guy did it, but probably had about, I'd say, 300-400 people. Really big auditorium. Yeah. And so, knowing the feedback from him that this is a business audience, then I started doing, our why and our opening metaphors and all this on business. Now, of course, you calibrate your audience all the time. So we're looking at the people, and they're back in the chair, bored, not much interest. Anyway, so I switched my mic off. Dad switched his mic off. We talked to each other, and we go, we need to switch. This doesn't work. That's the state of the audience. It's not where we want them to be. And I just had an intuition. I didn't know. I said, let's switch on kids. And so we started talking about kids and the problems with dyslexia, ADD, ADHD, how to get better grades and all this, and switching on metaphors, how to use NLP for this. And all of a sudden we saw all this business audience. They started moving forward on their chairs, on the edge of their chairs. Their eyes were big, and they couldn't get enough of this. And so we switched on a fly, and we did the same presentation, only this time we just switched in a moment, and we geared everything, why should they take the NLP practitioner that we had prepared in our heads, we switched it toward kids and education. Well, why that happened, I don't know. I'm just sharing with you this story because you need to be prepared. You need to calibrate all the time your audience. Don't be the boring university lecturer that reads you read your presentation, and regardless of what's happening in the group, you don't switch. No, you gotta be flexible. The person with the most flexibility of behavior ends up controlling the system, right? So be flexible, calibrate your audience, and be ready to switch on the fly if you need to. Yeah. Good. So some people respond, as I said, to children issues, some people to business marketing, management, sales issues, some to how to find a new career, depending. There are so many diverse networking groups. Yeah. So there are many interests out there. The bottom line is if you know your audience or you know something about your audience in advance, whether your audience is one person or a larger group, 10 people or 50 or 500, doesn't matter. Yeah, do some research to ensure you have at least a bare minimum of knowledge about your audience, and to ensure that you're presenting at the appropriate context and logical type. If your presentation is too lightweight, and you will remember this from trainers training, and too chunked down, you'll bore them. And if it's too in-depth or too abstract and filled with NLP jargon, you'll confuse them. Either way, the rule is that a confused audience, remember this, a confused audience will not search for further information, and your marvelous presentation will fall on deaf ears. Yeah, think of all of this. As I said, you don't need to freak out, to take notes desperately right now, because I'll make this file available to you. Good. So this is still under the headline number 5, if you are invited to the networking event. The next point to keep in mind is the good old what's in it for me, WIIFM. Yeah? This seems to be such a passé thing, such a cliche, but it holds true more than ever. You know? Absolutely. Good. I made a change here in file I prepared for you because I just saw a typo. So bearing in mind the what's in it for me being true more than ever, yeah. Even if people do not want to accept publicly that they are personally interested in something else, even if on the surface they are all for the greater good of everybody. Everybody has their own values and therefore they have their own motivation. You know that already, right? So therefore, based on the information you can gather about your audience, ask yourself, what are the possible challenges faced by this group of people? What are, in other words, what are their needs and their concerns? Yeah. I have another typo here. I'm correcting as I talk to you guys. Good. So these are their needs, and I said you need to address. By the way, you may mind read a lot of needs, several. Chunk up to 1 or 2 of them, yeah, and address only those. Do not attempt to talk about all those needs in 1 hour presentation. That'll be overload. You'll be absolutely overwearing, and the result is confusion. And as I said, confusion doesn't lead to anything. Of course, your whole talk and your whole presentation then will be geared toward how does your training solve those 2 or 3 maximum major concerns that they might have. Good, which is another way veiled why they should take your training. Of course, you understand that, right? So stay focused on benefits rather than features. Please remember this. Please remember this. I think Ted has posted something in the forum just recently, right now when I'm doing the recording. It may not be so recent by the time you see this, but Ted has posted this, and it's a very important point. Stay focused on benefits, in what's in it for them, not on the features of what you have to offer. They don't care. They all care about what can they take from you and be of benefit to them, right? So nobody really cares about how elegant and how quick is a swishback or a mapping across. Yeah, it sounds gobbledygook to them. But everybody cares about getting off a very bad food addiction they have. They know it's bad for them. And you can do it in 10 minutes. That's the same thing, only presented as a benefit rather than a feature. do a demo. Focus on presenting benefits for them rather than trotting out what you know and what's in your training for 1 hour. If you give your audience the feeling that you prepared your presentation especially for them, they will respond favorably. Now, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, practice makes perfect. This is another old cliche, yeah? However, still valid. Continually learn and practice your presentation. One of the most important and daunting tasks for any network is that of becoming an accomplished speaker. Well, congratulations. You already have that accomplished. You don't have to go to Taskmasters or whatever those things are. You already are an accomplished speaker. It's called the NLP Trainers Training. So you start with a big advantage. Your metaphors, by the way, keep them short. You have maximum 1 hour. And if you are lucky to have 2 hours presentation, that's really great. But in general, you have just 1 hour. Yeah, so keep your metaphors short and geared toward the purpose you want to accomplish. Now you understand why every time you ask me in the trainers training, well, what kind of metaphor should I use, this or that? And my answer would be depending on your purpose. So when you prepare your metaphors, start asking yourself, what's my purpose? What state do I want my audience to be in? And then you'll figure out the metaphors, yeah? So you have the format from trainers training, yeah? But remember that in a network marketing presentation, you will do everything under a gigantic why umbrella. This is your pitch. You're doing a 1 hour pitch for your trainings, right? So your whole presentation will be virtually a massive why they should train with you. Will your network presentations produce the same results? Probably not. You know, groups are different. You'll be feeling differently depending on how tired or how inspired you are in the moment. What other events are happening in your life or in the community or in the world at the time. For instance, during the election period, very few people pay attention to trainings and seminars if everyone is focused on the elections. So it's not like you're not doing a good job. People don't care about taking trainings at that time. So pay attention to what's going on around, you know? So what's your goal? Set up a benchmark for yourself. What's your goal when you do a presentation like this? Set up a number and go for it. As you get better and better and you achieve it easily, then up the number. And the minimum number of people you want to maybe enroll directly, have for later. So create an organization in your mind. Always work for a goal. Like everything you do, one of the principles in NLP is always have a direction to work toward something. Yeah. Now, the next thing, we're still under the point of when you do presentations for networking events, is how to handle hecklers. Again, you will remember from the trainers training, you'll remember how to handle hecklers and how to answer questions, as in questions are the answers sections. Do not let yourself be intimidated by questions, even if they seem challenging or maybe even antagonistic. Learn how to handle objections well. This is very much helped by the section on page 143 in the Marketing NLP Manual, by your ability to reframe on the spot and your sleight of mouth skills. Why do you think we spend so much time, even in the trainers training test, on sleight of mouth? Because it's invaluable for this kind of situations. Use metaphors in answering. You remember that you can answer questions with metaphors. And now, if you did your chains of anchors, remember at the beginning of the trainers training, you had to set up a series of chains of anchors for creating useful states for trainers. You will kick into a resourceful state automatically, even if you have a challenging question, rather than panicking that you don't know what to say. If you did not do those chains of anchors well, do them again. Take your trainers training manual and do them again. You can exchange work with someone else in the forum and help each other out. If you do many presentations, eventually you will face someone who will try to challenge you in what they are being told, what you're saying. But don't fall into the trap of digging your heels. Don't fall into the trap and trying to fight because this can turn the whole presentation into an argument, which will definitely work against you. Turn the challenge into an advantage. Stick to your point with logical arguments. Spot the logical fallacies in the opposing persons can help you a lot. This is in the hidden magical language training, the teaching you how to spot logical fallacies. Yeah, and so because your linguistic skills will make a gigantic difference. Yeah, this is how not to ever lose an argument. A simple tip: when you're faced with negativity, always start your answer with, that's a very good question. Even if it's a stupid one, yeah? Just use this, use computer. The computer stands from the satire category. So that's a very good question. Then answer in a feedback sandwich format. And if you did set up when you did your short metaphors, if you did set up a chain of anchors on stage, and when you did embedded metaphors, then maybe you can combine your answer by stepping into a certain state and taking them out of there, right? So you can use all of that. So argue your point truthfully, but logically and with examples. Dissociate, don't get emotionally, don't react, but initiate. It's I know it's easier said than done, but don't get yourself caught emotionally into an argument. It will work against you. Yeah? Stick to your position without negative emotions and maintain. That's easily done. It's called the trainer state. Peripheral vision, 363 degrees around you, and you won't be in a negative state. In fact, you will be in a very clear mind, clear thinking, resourceful state. Good. The next thing, still under the headline, when you make a presentation in networking, make a demonstration that leaves the audience breathless, intrigued, and wanting to know more. Show the magic of NLP or timeline therapy. Let people have a practical experience of your skills. Do not teach anything, by the way. Networking events are not for teaching. But a first-hand experience of an NLP or timeline therapy technique goes a very long way, and it's essential. It doesn't have to be something complicated. It has to be something very simple, rather. Use something simple. It may look simple to you, but for people who know nothing about NLP or timeline therapy, it will look magical. Good. And next is be truthful and speak from your heart. People buy from those they know, they like, and they trust. Group rapport is a must. And always remember the two sections from the trainer's training. One, how to move energy in the body, which is different from how to move energy in the body, from men to women. Remember, for women, you need to bring your energy down into the solar plexus. Don't keep it up here. Now bring it down into the solar plexus, power center. And for men, bring it up to the level of your heart, because that's not a power game. A networking event is not who is the most powerful person in the room, who controls whom. It's not about power. It is about your ability to stand firm on your own two feet, be a professional, and at the same time know that you know what you're talking about. Yeah, so that will give you the self-confidence that you need. Number two, second thing you need from the trainer's training, I said there are two things: how to extend your energy over the whole room, yeah, and encompass everybody. Yeah, peripheral vision, bring everything around you. Yeah, and so if you close yourself and you're too busy with, oh my God, what am I going to do? What am I going to say? I don't know. And you go internal instead of the outward focused trance, you go inward focused trance, then you will close yourself and nobody will get to know the real you. And the real you is okay. So you don't have to be perfect. You can talk about your own challenges in your presentation, your own beliefs, how you started, how you got there. Family hopes, dreams, you can talk about that. You can use that in metaphors also. Because doing so gives your prospects more opportunity to identify with you. So you can use the similarities again to build more rapport. The next point under the same heading, use lots of metaphors rather than talking about boring NLP stuff. So you will use embedded open metaphors at the beginning, yeah. But also you can use a lot of short closed metaphors throughout your presentation to support your point. People love to hear stories. rather than a boring thing. Again, this is a benefits, focus on benefits rather than features. You are excited about your trainings, and you may tend to delve into the features of those trainings, what you teach. Oh, it's so exciting to learn about parts integration and this and that, and I'm teaching this and I'm teaching that. However, it's not exciting to them, to your audience, or a brand new audience who has no experience of NLP or timeline therapy or hypnosis or anything else. Yeah. So think always from their perspective. People want to know about results, how they can get them, aside from how it will help them immediately. They want the bottom line. There is plenty of time to get the detail once they come to your trainings. You'll teach them all of that. Yeah. But to start this way could send most of your possible prospects to sleep. Let's be honest. Yeah. Remember, this is not a university lecture. Sell a feeling and an experience. Now, as we discussed in trainers training, this is also true here. Use humor. Be entertaining. This is important, but always remember, don't be a distractor or you won't be taken seriously. Ladies, forget about that. Yeah, especially for you. Be very careful with distractor, but also, gentlemen, also for you. Don't be a distractor continuously, because people eventually definitely won't take you seriously. Your intention, in other words, is not to become a clown. There's a fine line you need to walk, and in general, when the mood of the audience is light, they feel more relaxed and amenable. You want the state of the audience to be relaxed and happy and fun, yes, but this is not an entertainment show at the same time. It's not either or. You walk that fine line in between. The golden rule is to move people from a non-resourceful to a resourceful state. And you know how to change state in audience, chaining anchors and metaphors, right? It make them laugh, make them cry, then they buy. Most people buy on an emotional impulse. So do you, so do I. I mean, most people do buy on an emotional impulse, not all the time, but at least once in your life, maybe you bought an emotional impulse. I'm not an emotional impulse buyer, but it happened to me. And I was conscious of what was I doing, and I recognized it. But it's normal. We're human beings. We have emotions. We feel for something positive, and if we feel positive, we're more likely to desire it. Yeah? So again, you are at an advantage here, I said, compared to untrained network presenters, because most people have no idea about chaining anchors, and if they move on stage, they move randomly and purposelessly. So you can change states the whole audience, and so do a exquisite set of chaining anchors, in your opening metaphors in your set. Next point is to ask a lot of questions and open your audience to questions. What if section is massively important at a networking presentation. In fact, your what will be pretty much insignificant. Mostly will be why. You'll have a little how, which will be a little demonstration, which has to be, as I said, look magical. And then definitely a lot of what if. Pray that you have a lot of questions. You want questions. You want a lot of questions. If there are questions, that means there is interest. If there are no questions, well, probably not so much interest. Yeah. So instead of telling your possible, your audience how it is, get them answering questions. So it creates, number one, remember, it creates more compliancy. And number two, it makes for an interactive presentation. For example, rather than saying, did you know that maybe 1% of the people in the Western world know that their values influence everything they do in their lives? Instead of saying that, you can say, what percentage of the people do you think have any idea of how much their values influence their lives? By the way, most of your audience will have no idea. Yeah, but ask them the question. You create that interaction. The more they ask you, the better you can give them why they should know what you have to offer. Yeah? It's almost like you're preparing them to the purchase decision rather than pushing them into buying. You don't want to do that. Yeah? That people feel that and they don't want it. I don't want it, you don't want it. Why would somebody else want it? Right? That doesn't mean that we don't purchase something we're interested in. as long as we become interested. So it's your duty to make them interested. Make sure you remember the what if section. Make sure you do it. It's vitally important in a networking presentation. Let them ask you questions. Next point, make it easy by offering an incentive for them to act right then and there. Many networking participants, not being trained in sales, they give a great presentation and then they forget to ask for what is called a call to action. Yeah. Think of reasons why did you sign up for your training today. Some possible reasons. What? Because you're offering a special price. That's obvious, right? Or because prices are about to increase. By the way, don't lie here. If you're thinking of increasing prices or anything like that, then use that. Otherwise, it can be easily spotted as a lie if you just use it and you don't increase prices. Or there is a training deadline, or you're offering a discount for whatever reason because you're loving the network organizers and it's just for the participants tonight at this presentation. You're offering them something, a discount or something, yeah? Or because your next training will be a small training in which they'll have your direct and unbroken attention for the whole training. I mean, undivided attention, I'd rather. It's better said. So whatever it is, tell them and secure the interest to act now. That's very important. Good, now we're done with that section. And here we'll start part 2 in our discussion about general rules for marketing. Because if you've done, let me see how to put this one. Maybe after doing all of the above, networking still doesn't work for you. Let's see what possible pitfalls may be there. At the beginning, all new trainers are networking solely to grow their business. Mistakenly, they think that networking alone will provide the magic that will make their business successful. Even if every business is constantly looking for more prospects, and that's true, networking events may, notice that I'm using the word may not necessarily be about that. Now, if you're wearing yourself out attending scores of networking events and still have very little results, you're having the wrong approach and you're wasting your time. So, therefore, other points to network successfully and to avoid making mistakes are: networking events are not necessarily for the purpose of expecting to find clients, although in the case of doing presentations, this obviously can work in your favor. Next point, giving out business cards must be done wisely. Do not hand them out like candy to every person you meet in that, because everybody will do the same. And eventually, nobody would look at the business cards. So be wise. Yeah. I know I said in trainers training, I give my business card to every person I talk to. And meaning I build rapport, I get to know them, and then they give me their business card, and I give them my business card, and I follow up. Yeah, but not like, you have a basket of candies with your business cards and you hand them out to everybody for free. That's not what I meant. So let's be wise about it. Now, spend time building rapport with chit chat, rather than immediately trying to sell them with your elevator pitch. There is a time and a place for your elevator pitch, but you have to build some rapport until then, right? They should be done, the elevator pitches should be done only in due time, which is a little later in the making. People are wary of underhanded sales techniques. That's our next bullet. Forget about those. Unlike the buying signs, unless the buying signs are obvious and somebody really wants to talk to you about your training, maybe they heard of NLP before, maybe they heard of you before, maybe you talked to them before and now they're convinced. All of that is possible. But unless the buying signs are obvious, which rarely happens at networking events with fresh, brand new people you meet, do not push sales like a used car salesperson. Yeah? Be genuine. Speak from the heart. Be honest. Be truthful when asked about you and what you do. Be concise. Oh, be concise and clear. That's why you prepared your thinking about your differentiation point, about your elevator pitch. You have your elevator pitch and so on and so forth. So you use your keywords, but it comes naturally. If you repeated this long enough, this is you. It's not something you make up. It's not a fake thing. It's a description of you, of your differentiation point, of what you do and who you are, and that it's truthful. Yeah. So yes, it is a technique, and at the same time, it's not something you just learn to parrot. It's not a monkey see, monkey do. What persona shall I put so I look the best? People are wary of that, and non-truthfulness comes across. People have become very receptive to true, open, honest energy coming from a person. Unconsciously, they feel it. Yeah. So before you go to networking event, be very clear about your differentiation point. I know I mentioned this several times, but I want to say it again, because the more clear you are, the more truthful and open you can talk about it. Enticing offer they cannot refuse technique is overrated. I'll give you my practitioner for $79, but just for you and just tonight. Well, okay. It's perfectly acceptable to talk about what you do or offer, the problems you solve, the outcomes of your clients, the outcomes you had with your clients so far. Nevertheless, if you assume that everybody has a need for your services, I want to refer you back to the 5-step sales process, where number one is find a need. So you shouldn't start just selling indiscriminately to every able body that sits in front of you. You may chase away prospects instead of what you want, which is connections. If there is a need and it is genuine, of course you will do everything you can to close the deal. So you'll schedule a sales appointment, or maybe you'll close the deal in the evening. It's you never know, but most likely you will have to follow up. That's the most likely conclusion. Very rarely when you close the deal in the moment, unless you do presentations, in which case it is possible. But if you participate as a participant at the networking event, closing the deal at the moment is very rare. But you follow up, yeah. Good. Many networking events are indeed insincere, pretentious, manipulative, or even unscrupulous. Let's say it as it is. Networking can be used in a superficial way of leveraging a connection in a self-serving and inconsiderate way. If you hold such an attitude yourself, if your goals are solely narcissistic, or if you hold this belief about all networking, these are exactly the results you get. Perception is always projection, and this will be the people you meet. However, there are also people who want to build genuine, mutually beneficial relationships. When you are networking, you're going to sift through the people you don't want to know. No, you don't want to know everybody. To get to the people you do want to know. Now, next bullet point. Although the internet is one of the most used ways to network, do not keep your networking efforts isolated only to the internet because you don't want to meet people live. That is a mistake. You can establish great connections online, but the most successful networkers are those who take those online connections and translate them into face-to-face relationships. Now, watch out for parasites. People who try to do too many favors for you. Stop and wonder, why is that? Although comfortable to have someone always trying to please you and do things for you, remember the old saying, "Me think doth protest too much." If you find that at all networking events you're going, a person attaches themselves to you like a leech, turn them down as politely as you can. Something's not right. Yeah? Start to learn to say no. Even if it makes you feel guilty in the moment, be polite, be respectful, and find an excuse to get out of the conversation and make yourself scarce to them. Just know that depending on the length of the relationship with you, when you start saying no, it will move
You guys, hold on. There was an interruption in the video. Please hold. I'll get it back. Okay.
Even if it makes you feel guilty in the moment, be polite, be respectful, and find an excuse to get out of the conversation and make yourself scarce to them. Just know that depending on the length of the relationship with you, when you start saying no, it will move a disgruntled acquaintance. I hope this makes sense. Behavioral excellence, be a model of excellence on stage and off stage, do you remember that, right? Is one of the NLP basic tenets of our industry. So live up to it. I hope this is useful for everybody. I hope that it will give you some ideas about networking. And so this ends my presentation on networking. I'm looking forward to your comments and questions in the forum. Even if I'm in the middle of the trainings, I will always look at the forum because I love to see your questions. I love to be of service to you. I love to answer. You are our top of the line graduates, and we like you to be successful. So please take what you need from this file and go out to presentations and be successful. Until I talk to you next time, everybody be well. Thank you for being here and thank you for participating. Bye-bye now.
Hi. Okay. That was a great video by Adriana. I'm so happy. I saw so many of you more popping on when the video started. So just to let you know, Adriana is currently in the Sydney practitioner training live with probably about 6 or 7 of our coaching assistants from the master trainer program. So if you had a chance to log in, then hi, thanks for your support over there. And if not, then hello for the recording. I will take some questions. If you had any questions about it, I know a lot of things were self-explanatory. Again, the transcript, if you missed my message or Adriana's message, the transcript will be available to you guys posted in the forum under the Zoom webinars, which is Zoom webinar number 4. So that will be there. If you have any questions, I will scroll down. I want to catch up on the chat, see if you have anything. You can post them now. I'm happy to take anything. I'll wait a couple seconds. Hi, Veronica. Love you guys too. And for people who were messaging me while I was on the video, I saw your messages. Thank you. Yeah, no, you weren't alone on the chat. I think what happens is when the screen was shared, maybe the chat was disabled. So many of you thought you were alone on the call. You're not. And anyway, I'll wait a couple seconds. If you have any questions, please, again, type them in the chat room. Make sure you clicked all panelists and all attendees so that I could see it. If not, I know that was a lot of information, but a lot of great information. Again, the projects that you go on. Actually, Mihaila, if you're on, hi, I got your message in the private chat the other day. She did ask me, how do I succeed in going through each of these projects? Now, to successfully network in the way that Adriana has spoken about, you'll want to go through the projects. And so this is how you can calibrate. In the beginning, you know, we're all learning how to read each of the projects, post, do the work at home, maybe in a notebook, then post what's there so you can get some feedback. But you can just check in periodically. Okay, project number 1 or 1A. Have I done this at 100% to make myself happy at this point, or 100% to my satisfaction, or 100% to what's going to get me to the next step? and then calibrate. If your answer is yes, absolutely, then good, then move on to the next project. If you're like, I can add a little bit more, then do that as well. That's a good way to give yourself feedback and how to proceed. None of us are judging you like, oh, so and so hasn't been active. I mean, we want to see you active. And we're not judging you, but we do want to support you. The only way we can support you from this end is if we see your activity, see your questions that you have. Even if you say, I'm blocked on this project, this assignment, I have no clue, post that there. We'll encourage you along. And again, there's nothing wrong, nothing stupid, nothing that we haven't been through all on a personal level, either you as participants in the Master Trainer Program, or us as coaches and staff at the Tad James Company. There's nothing we haven't gone through already that we weren't even a little bit like, oh, that didn't work. So this is a process of feedback continuously. The more active you stay in the forum, the more you can get feedback towards your growth. But it was wonderful to see you all. Thank you for joining us. Have a good evening. I'll check one more time to see if there's anything else in the chat. I don't see anything. If I'm missing something, then hi, Bridget. Yes. Okay. Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, everybody. Stay motivated, stay happy. I'll see many of you this summer as coaching assistants. Yes. And for those of you staying on to assist at the Master Practitioner Training in Sydney, thank you very much and enjoy your experience. Take care. Have a beautiful evening and good night.